Hello everyone, Ben Woodruff here with another Falconry video. Today's video won't be too long, and it's going to be the first video in a three-part that I want to do, which is talking about falcons, accipiters, and Buteos. I've noticed that a lot of the people commenting and watching my videos aren't falconers yet. They're looking into it. And in the United States and in many countries, you are required to get a license and take some sort of a test issued by the government that prepares you. Because of that, I wanted to cover something that I'm surprised looking through that I haven't covered before. One of the things that you will be tested on is knowing and understanding the basic difference between accipiters, falcons, and Buteos, which are three different traditionally used groups of raptors. So today's video, I'm going to be introducing accipiters. Accipiters are the forest hawks, or if the nomenclature goes back far enough, what we would call the true hawks. These are hawks that are primarily forest dwellers. They can hunt in open country, and they migrate across open country, but really these hawks are built to hide in the trees and hunt in the trees, or make a dash out, grab prey, and then go back to cover. In the United States, we only have three members of the accipiter family. We have the northern goshawk, which is the largest of the three. We have the Cooper's hawk, which is the most common and widespread and prolific of the three. And then we have the sharp-shinned hawk, which is the smallest. Also very common, but not nearly as common as a Cooper's hawk, but more common than a goshawk. All three of these birds have the same silhouette and profile, and that's one of the things that you will probably see on a falconry exam is identification of the different silhouettes and profiles. Accipiters, because they are forest dwellers, their shape, their profile matches what you would expect for a forest dweller. Their wings are comparatively the shortest between falcon, accipiter, and Buteo. The shorter your wings, the easier you can navigate trees and branches without, running into them. They also have ridiculously long tails, proportionately very long. The general rule of flight with most bird species is the longer your tail is, the more maneuverable you are. For general turning, in addition to changing the shape of your wings, having a long tail allows you to turn on a dime. So, if you're looking on your silhouette chart, if you see the one with the shorter wings and the very long tail, that's going to be your accipiter. When their wings are folded up, the tips of the primaries folded up usually don't even make it halfway down the tail. Where falcons, most falcons folded up, those primary tips go basically to the end of the tail, and Buteos aren't that far off from that. But accipiters, tiny wings comparatively. Because of that, accipiters pretty much have to flap non-stop. When they're hunting, they're just flap, 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 boom. You don't see much soaring and gliding. If you see a wild bird that's migrating or doing whatever, then you will see a characteristic soar, flap, 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 soar, flap, 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 flap. This is quite normal. Locally, I see a lot of times sharp-shinned hawks and Cooper's hawks in the neighborhoods. This is the most commonly encountered raptor in a regular neighborhood setting. The reason is we make suburbia. We plant all this grass, and it comes in sod with worms. Robins are eating the worms. We have bushes and trees in our yard that might not have been there before. So you've got home and food for songbirds. And then, of course, people have bird feeders, which also encourages songbirds to come in. So those bird feeders are also feeding Cooper's hawks and sharp-shinned hawks. When they're passing through, they'll look, and if they see that fluttery motion, then they're like, oh, hey, okay, there's something to hunt. And they'll usually be in your neighbor's yard if you have a bird feeder, and they will watch and wait, and they'll burst out of the trees. Here's a fence, and they'll come up over the fence, boom, grab something. They'll be on the ground, and then they'll disappear. They are very much ambush predators, left to their own devices. Now, if you just look at field guides, you might think all three of these are more burly than they actually are. Before I'd ever seen a wild one, when I was just excited as a child, looking through field guides, I would look at illustrations, and all the markings were correct, but these birds were actually illustrated way too chunky, way too thick, leaning more towards the build of a red tail, which is a member of the Buteo family that we'll talk about in another video. But accipiters are actually very delicate. They're very wiry and willowy underneath all their feathers. They may poof up, but they are very dainty. And their brain is wired much faster than other raptors. Their frame rate, their processing, they process visual information. If you are a falcon that can travel fast, but you're in open country and you're chasing a bird in open country, you're not worried about obstacles coming at you. If an accipiter is used to dodging through in a forest, you got branch, 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 tree, tree, branch, 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 and you're also trying to calculate and only focus on your prey, then you have to be very attuned to processing information quickly. So among all the raptors, accipiters process more quickly. If you're observing them, that would be a natural conclusion to come to, is that they seem to process much more quickly. And the prey knows it. When you're hunting anything, a sparrow, a pheasant, you might have, if you had a falcon chasing a pheasant, maybe the pheasant just tries to outrun it. Where with an accipiter, a bird will try to dodge and outmaneuver it. So you get a much more athletic flight, much more interesting flight than with a lot of other birds. Accipiters in America, I mentioned sharp-shinned hawks, Cooper's hawks, goshawks. All three of these roughly look the same their first year. They all have kind of a tan, cream color, or brown. There's differences, of course, but they look very similar their first year. And as adults, they change, and the goshawks get the gray silver colors, and the Coopers and sharp-shinned hawks get a red chest and a slaty blue-gray back. So they definitely look different as adults, but first years they do all look the same. Characteristically, accipiters don't lend themselves well to the hood. They can be hood trained, but not always. And most falcons just, oh, this is fine. Accipiters characteristically usually don't take to the hood nearly as well as other raptors. Because they're very strong and very fast, but very delicate, your management, your weight management, your equipment has to be spot on. It has to be perfect. Otherwise, you can get a bird injured very quickly. Accipiters are highly prone to breaking their feathers. If you watch them in slow motion, their feathers are very bendable, but they are also very brittle. Buteos have bendable feathers that are strong, bendable. Falcons have brittle, plasticky feathers. Accipiters have comparatively brittle but bendable feathers. They break easy. It's not uncommon to have a bird being flown hard that can break feathers. Even just on a kill. They might be mantling over a kill, tail spread out, and they'll break some primaries. So if that's the case, be sure to take a look back in my videos. I have one about using a tail clip and explains a good way to handle that to prevent tail breakage. These are not beginner birds. Any bird that I say that about, you can say, well, you're technically wrong because if a person has a good enough sponsor and pays enough attention, they can still have great success. I 100% agree with that. But as a general statement, because I don't know who's watching these videos, I do not consider accipiters to be beginners birds. They are a wonderful falconry bird. You'll have high success with them, but they take so much more work and effort to fly properly and to read their behavior. And if you get it wrong, these birds will hold a grudge more than Buteos or falcons will. But the highest success you can have at acquiring game is going to be with an accipiter. You could have one goshawk or one Cooper's hawk and hunt all day long and non-stop just hunt, and continually capture game with success. And the bird never seems to slow down. Most other birds, with falcons and Buteos, that's not the case. But with accipiters, you can hunt and hunt and hunt. So they're definitely a desirable bird. And if you had a survival situation where you're like, I need to live off of what my bird can catch, then boy, I'd definitely pick a goshawk because of that very reason. But that's what you need to know for the test. What do they look like? Short rounded wings, long tail. What three do we have in the United States? Goshawk, Cooper's hawk, sharp-shinned hawk. High maintenance bird that needs special equipment and a lot of attention. Very high success rate in hunting. They can both hunt mammals and they can hunt birds. And remember, they're way more delicate than you would think. Now, there's wonderful books about accipiters. There's one on goshawks called Understanding Goshawks. There's Michael McDermott has written several books on accipiters. The Imprint Accipiter, the Imprint Accipiter 2, they're both very good. Accipitrine Behavioral Problems, I highly recommend. No matter how good your mentor is or your sponsor, if you really want to fly an accipiter and you really want to understand their mindset, I highly recommend getting the book Accipitrine Behavioral Problems. Read it and pore over it and understand the diverse range of problems and the troubleshooting ways of finding solutions to issues that arise with accipiters that you don't find so much with other birds. So I hope this is valuable, this little bit of information. I have to say my first experience ever as a young child with any bird of prey was a goshawk, was a northern goshawk. We had got a permit to go cut a Christmas tree, and we went up the canyon, and I was just toddling in the snow, this little kid, and I go around a corner, and on a snowshoe hare in the snow, there's this white rabbit, there's blood on the snow, and there's this adult goshawk with blood red eyes mantling over, and it's just so mad at me, and it flies straight up in a branch and looks down at me and just screams at me with anger that I scared it off its kill, and I was just like, whoa. So that was my absolute first encounter with accipiters. Ever since then, as a very young toddler, I have loved birds of prey and been obsessed with accipiters. And even though they're high maintenance, they're one of my absolute favorites to fly. So keep watching. I'll have another couple videos up giving the quick intro for preparing for your test to understand what a falcon is and what Buteos are in the next few days. Let me know down in the comments what other videos you would like to see. And as always, happy hawking.